This is a podcast from BFM 89.9, the business station.
The BFM Breakfast Grille, connecting you to the top people and ideas. Powered by U Mobile, 5G now with you.
This is the Breakfast Grille and I am Mark Tan. Bursa Malaysia has reported that losses from scams have amounted to RM 5.2 billion ringgit over a 2-year period during the COVID-19 pandemic. And there appears to be no slowdown in the number of cases, with the National Scam Response Centre recording 25,000 fraud cases in 2022. These scams often start with data leakages, and last year almost 13 million Malaysians' personal data was put up for sale on the dark web. To counter this problem, cybersecurity firms have had to step up their game. Today, we speak with one of Malaysia's leading companies, LGMS Berhad, with Fong Choong Fook, their executive chairman, to get details on the recent investment by Japan's Mitsui, their financials, share price performance, and the continued proliferation of data breaches and scams in the country. CF, good morning and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Mark, and thanks for having me here.
2023 appears to have started well with April's announcement that Japan's Mitsui & Co. Limited has acquired a 25% strategic stake in LGMS Berhad. Did they come knocking on your doors or did you look for them?
In fact, Mitsui came to us back in 2020 November. At that time, they were looking for a partner to deliver cybersecurity services 2 years ago. So the conversation started initially back then was to have the intention to deliver cybersecurity services. And along the way, we're starting to progress into the discussion of Mitsui are interested to acquire a stake in LGMS. Back then, we are not public listed yet. And we have also no intention to get any funding because in terms of cash flow, we're quite steady and we're quite strong. And the conversation continue. We go on in doing some accounts planning, strategic planning, and until the IPO. And then we also got to know after the IPO, they acquired about 2% of LGMS share from the market. So the conversation of collaboration still continues. Along the way, we're also doing some fine-tuning. We are doing some assessment testing with Mitsui. And then eventually, we decided that I know Mitsui they are quite patient, in fact, very persistent in their objective of they want to grow the cybersecurity business in Southeast Asia region and to the world. So eventually, we come to agreement, and that's what happened on 27th of April. We decided to let them to acquire the 23% stake.
So you were saying earlier that Mitsui bought the initial 2% from the open market.
Yes.
And this 23% is more of a private block purchase transaction?
It is. It is a private block, yeah.
So it's quite obvious what I believe LGMS will benefit from this relationship with Mitsui. But if I was to look at it from the Japanese side, what synergy or benefits would Mitsui have from taking this 25% stake in LGMS?
A 250 billion company, why are they interested in a 500 million company, right? We're like 450 times smaller than Mitsui. But coming into LGMS would provide them an acceleration to Mitsui as well, because for them to open up a new market in Southeast Asia, at the same time from Southeast Asia, we use it as a launch pad to go to different parts of the world. In fact, Mitsui in Japan, they do have a cybersecurity practice. It's called MBSD. They have been around for close to 2 decades. They're doing something very similar with LGMS. However, they are also very specialized in certain advanced area. So the only thing is that MBSD is up to their full capacity already in Japan. So at the same time, their main markets are mainly on domestic Japan.
With a 25% stake, obviously there's no management control from Mitsui over LGMS. Are they going to seek for board representation?
Yeah, in fact, we are the one who suggested that we need a management committee from Mitsui side, and also we also propose a board seat. And Mitsui is also very nicely, they're going to second someone senior to assist us in doing a complete business revamp. One of the things that we see from this transfer of staff is we can leverage on what MBSC has done in Japan and also multiply it in this region, and hopefully this itself will help us to accelerate the business growth.
Looking at your 2022 numbers, presently overseas markets contribute to 12% of your total sales, with Singapore being the significant largest contributor. So moving forward, what would be the expected sales contribution from your overseas markets?
I think we will expect increase from there, the overseas market share. And of course, with Mitsui coming in, we would expect these numbers to continue to grow. What I can say is that the overall prospect of the cybersecurity industry is quite positive. We are right in the middle of the demand for specialized cybersecurity services. Just for example, we did a check last week. We had a meeting last week. We noticed that the number of clients has just surged out of Q1, and we are also anticipating that the momentum may continue, and hopefully, we have a positive year this year.
And are these clients coming from a particular overseas market? Is it still Singapore or is it within Asia Pacific?
Coming from various markets. One of the reasons also because we have a very good partner, Alibaba Cloud, who is also helping us to resell our services worldwide. And we do have clients who are coming from certain new countries that we have never served before. And this is absolutely something quite interesting for us as well. In our business, there are three segments of our business. Prevention business contribute about more than 60% of our revenue. So prevention business, I think, is far more critical for most of our clients today. So this is the area that we are going to focus in.
Now, as you mentioned early on, Mitsui has their own proprietary cybersecurity systems, but you also mentioned that they are very fixated in Japan alone, right? And you are here mostly in Malaysia. So how does Mitsui's existing cybersecurity services fit into LGMS' existing product range? And are there any plans to offer their services here in Malaysia?
This is very interesting questions because obviously MBSD, Mitsui, they have some kind of proprietary systems that work very well in their market. At the same time, LGMS also have our own proprietary systems. So that's one of the things that we do during the fine-tuning session and see how we can leverage on some of these things that we have and cross-exchange and see how we can create a bigger market. And whether we're going to bring in some kind of technologies over here to Malaysia or to this region, the answer is absolutely yes.
And have you all identified potentially what's the first software or service to be launched from this partnership?
Absolutely, yes, we have. Yes.
And?
We actually have a series of announcements to be made in the following months. And we wait for it from a public announcement. Yeah.
Now, AI has taken a very strong theme this year. So are there any plans from LGMS or Mitsui for AI-driven cybersecurity solutions with obviously the usual built-in analytical capabilities in terms of your upcoming product pipeline?
Well, we are using AI as part of our research, and we're using AI to do some data analytics work for our log analysis for our clients. But AI has still not gone into mainstream in the work that we are doing, mainly in penetration testing and vulnerability assessment. But AI is widely used in the area of data analytics and forensic analysis. In fact, other than AI, we are looking at machine learning, we're looking at big data analytics as well. So.
Now, looking at your financials, audited year FY 2022 shows a top-line revenue of 28.3 million and an operating profit of 14.3 million ringgit, very much in line with your IPO prospectus.
Yep.
So for 2023, what would be the growth multiplier outlook, especially after the Mitsui partnership announcement?
I think even before Mitsui comes in, we already have a series of internal plans to be executed, and we are very much on track on those internal planning. And hopefully, with this, as Mitsui comes in, we can see some form of acceleration.
But could you share what would be the drivers of this growth? What will propel these growth numbers for you?
Now, what we are observing is that organizations today are more receptive to cyber security awareness, and because of this awareness, is driving these organizations to come to us to want to acquire services in terms of prevention, and also because of many recent data leak incidents, many organizations starting to have the kind of awareness already.
And from your financials, also, it looks like your operating margins are around at the 50% level. So moving forward, do you expect these margins to maintain?
Well, certainly we hope to maintain the margins, but I think we're operating about 40+%. And then when we grow, I think obviously we're going to have some fine-tuning on the profit margin. So I don't expect that we can maintain 50% though, but we will do our best to keep the profit ahead.
Is labor your biggest cost component? As I understand, there is a headcount plan to ramp up an additional 70 technical personnel.
Yes, indeed. Yep. Headcount is always our biggest asset and the biggest cost, especially talents. Talents is our biggest asset. We do not have any other costs. In fact, we don't have any inventories, we don't have any stocks to keep. So talent is our only cost. In a way, I think the difficult challenge for a company like ours is talent retention. It's not so much of talent attractions. We do have a lot of people sending applications to LGMS, but I think challenges for companies alike, like us, is talent retention. So we're also very glad to say that most of the staff in LGMS have been around for many years. Some of the senior consultants have been with us for more than 6 to even 15 years.
What's the profile of somebody that applies to be a cybersecurity personnel in your company? I mean, where do you get these people from?
We get resumes from all walks of life. We have black hat hackers, criminals, sending applications, wanted to be a security consultants. We have fresh graduates coming from out of schools who are studying chemicals, wanted to be a cybersecurity consultants. Basically, we get resumes from all walks of life. Now, the thing is, quite interestingly to share is that a lot of resumes that we receive, a lot of these resumes, we have noticed that many of them actually are some people who really done security work before, but they may not do it in a proper way. In a way, we're saying that quite a number of black hats also submit their resumes to apply a job in LGMS. And sometimes when in their resume, they will brag about how they hacked the government, what are the data they have stolen from the government and put in the resume as a screenshot. So usually these kind of resumes are the ones that we get thrown out first. So because for us, I think it's not so much about skill set, when it comes to hacking, it's very much about the attribute of a person. And this also contributes one of the challenges we have when we are hiring somebody. If we found out anything fishy about, the person, we can dismiss the person within 24 hours.
So what kind of internal control or monitoring tools do you have to stop a person from going white to black?
We have the most number of ethical hackers commercially in the country. And this is a very common asked question. How do we keep our hackers not going rogue, right? So we are doing it in two ways. One is go through a legal process, from an administration process. We have policies, procedures in place. We have legal binding agreements in place. And going from administrative process, going to technical process. So on the laptops of our staff, we also have software installed to constantly evaluate and monitor the activities that's going on.
Now, we understand that your customer base includes local banks, insurance companies, MNCs, and government agencies. Can you maybe identify who are your major clients? And what's the split between new and recurring customers in your portfolio?
You can say most mainstream financial institutions are using our services. We do serve government, but I think majority of our customers coming from private sectors. And these private sectors customers and also primarily coming from regulated industries, like for instance, financial industries, telecommunication industries. However, we also notice the trend is also changing. Non-regulated industries like, for example, oil and gas, logistics companies, transportations, healthcare, they are also coming to LGMS for cybersecurity protection services. So I think the trend is changing.
Now, in terms of then your customer mix between new and recurring?
Like many analysts, they ask us, hey, do you guys have a recurring contract with, your client and all? We do have some. However, because the nature of work itself is very recurring. That's why, in summary, I would say that many of those penetrations work are very recurring based.
So in terms of signing a contract with LGMS, are these usually just one-off contracts, or it's like one of these 12 months, 18 months long-term contracts that you get from your clients?
Yeah, I think most clients who sign contract with us are mainly regional clients. We have a global logistic company who signed contract with us for 3 years. We have a regional insurance giant who signed contract with us for 2 years. So mainly regional clients, they prefer to have a contract in place and they prefer to have a pricing sheet from us, and so that they can do budgeting themselves. Whereas when it comes to Malaysian companies, I think Malaysian companies are more conservative, I would say. So they would rather every time they call out for a quotation and then evaluate the quotation every time.
Yeah, and then they have 3 quotations and the procurement department goes through
exactly.
it. Right? Talking about sourcing for new business, or how does your business development and marketing team source for new customers? And is there a difference between how you source it here in Malaysia versus your overseas markets?
Yeah, I think surprisingly, I'm not sure whether you believe it or not, we do not have a sales team. We have an in-house pre-sales team which is designed to handle incoming leads. We do have incoming leads coming from all over, other than from local market. We have incoming leads coming from different countries. We do not have a hunting team, and it's one of the things that I want to establish after the IPO, in fact. But we have been so busy handling incoming leads, and so that this is not becoming a priority for setting up a hunting team anymore.
So you have a very good farming team since you don't need a hunting team, right?
Yeah.
On the Breakfast Grill this morning is Fong Choong Fook, Executive Chairman, LGMS Berhad. After the break, LGMS Berhad's IPO and share price performance, and a look at scams, data breaches, and how do individuals and companies protect themselves. This is BFM 89.9.
You are listening to The Breakfast Grill, brought to you by U Mobile. 5G now with you.
Welcome back to The Breakfast Grill, where in the hot seat this morning is Fong Choong Fook, Executive Chairman, LGMS Berhad. Before the break, Mitsui and LGMS Berhad's strategic investment and their plans moving forward. Now, touching a bit on the IPO that happened last year, you all raised 45.7 million ringgit from the issuance of new shares, of which I believe 84% of the proceeds, or about 38.2 million ringgit, was allocated for business expansion.
Yes.
Could you share with us how these monies have been utilized and how this business expansion have worked since then?
Well, our utilization is still on track. We have located an office in Cambodia. Cambodia is one of a strategic country we want to expand in. We already have some of the largest banks in Cambodia working with LGMS, and we would like to further explore that. So we already have an office, located an office for some of the expansion funds will be allocated there. At the same time, we're also going in a very aggressive mode in hiring and also training. We're also opening up new certifications offering by getting additional accreditation from international certification bodies so that we can deliver new certification service to our client. And at the same time, we are going to acquire an office locally, and so to multiply the number of labs that we have. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So why Cambodia? And your Cambodia expansion, does it encompass all your three major business activities, which is risk prevention, risk management and compliance, and threat and incidents response?
Yes, this is a common asked question as well. Why Cambodia? One of the things is Cambodia is more business friendly if you compare with some of the local neighboring countries we have here. They're more business friendly. They allow foreign entities to hold 100% of the business. And more important fact for us is that we already have a footprint in Cambodia. In fact, the largest banks are using our service and following by some other banks, and we see that the potential is great. It's like some of the early days, like what we've seen in Malaysia, where the banks are booming and they're seriously looking into cybersecurity protections. And aside from that, the government sector is also very open. They're more susceptible to cybersecurity ideas, prevention ideas. So that's why we are going to Cambodia.
Now, when it comes to Cambodia, we know that a lot of Malaysian banks have opened up offices in Cambodia. Is that the major attraction for you to going to Cambodia, or is it the local Cambodia banks with their new digital offerings that's taking you there?
I think that there's an interesting fact there, but many major banks in Cambodia, the management levels come from Malaysia. Yeah. So, of course, being Malaysians, are familiar with us, and at the same time, we're also venturing out into looking at industries who are not banking related. So we already have in talk with several other industries other than financial. They are also very susceptible to the cybersecurity protection idea. Yeah.
Now, LGMS Berhad listed on the A stock exchange for 50 cents, and I think was met quite positively by market, and the share price surged up to a high of 1 ringgit and 48 cents. However, this year, 2023, the performance has been rather flat, even with the news of the Mitsui partnership, and it's been hovering around 112 to 116 levels year to date, right? Now, why hasn't the market taken to the Mitsui news more positively?
I'm also wondering the same thing. But then again, because you see, another thing is that majority of our shareholders are coming from institutions. I think that also explains why, the share price are quite stagnant. I think the institutions are more aiming for long-term.
And who are your bigger institutional investors that you have?
Well, we have foreign, I think we have quite a number of foreign shareholders. They are mainly coming from financial sectors. So they're also pension funds, they're also foreign pension funds, they're also foreign capital VCs, and we have a mixture. So something that we hope to see is that Malaysians, we don't see many Malaysians institutions holding our shares, unfortunately. So something that we hope to see is that Malaysians starting to look at how, potential cybersecurity industry, and hopefully we make some change over there.
Well, there's one Malaysian analyst that covers LGMS and has put a target price of 150 for you based on a PE ratio of 25 for your 2023 earnings. Do you think this is a fair value for the company, or would you expect, with the Mitsui partnership again, that this thing should go higher?
He did a quite detailed analysis of our business. I'm looking at some of his comment. I think he has a very, very in-depth understanding of what we do. And whether or not we can meet that, it's still too early to say, because now it's still Q2 of the year. Hopefully we can meet what his expectation is.
Now, CF, hackers are always improving their methods and finding new ways to breach databases. These days, I'm even made aware that cybercrime as a service is an offering by the scam operators, and deepfake technology is powered by AI and now also being used by scammers. How do security firms such as LGMS Berhad keep up with the hackers?
Well, I think one of the things is that we cannot deny is that hackers are always creative and innovative. All right, so this is also something that we are keep on the pace to follow what hackers are doing, and also by tapping on what are the techniques and tools that they're using, it becomes our key success factors. We have to keep updated all the time, and I think one of the advantages we have is that because we are also actively involved in computer crime investigation and digital forensics for enterprises here. So sometimes when some of the enterprises that got hacked, so we go on site and when we perform digital forensic, in a way we also get to learn from the bad guys. We get to learn what are the latest tools and techniques that they use, and we apply the same techniques and tools back into our prevention practices, where we offer penetration testing to our other clients, and they also get to experience how secure are their network against the techniques and tools and techniques that hackers are using. Again, aside from that, we also actively subscribe to cyber threat intelligence. We actively go out to the dark web and scout for any new intelligence and new techniques, what bad guys are using, apply back in our lab, and again, whatever we have learned, we always apply back into our service to help our client to stay abreast.
So I think most corporations are obviously very fearful about vulnerability of outdated anti-hacking technology and systems, right? So how do you know whether your system's been hacked, outdated, and how fast does it take you to deploy a new version to upgrade it?
Yeah, I think one of the interesting facts is that vulnerabilities exist today, can emerge in a very lightning speed. So today, if we secure a system today, it can be vulnerable as fast as tomorrow or even an hour after. So because hackers are constantly looking for new ways to breach into organizations, so one of the effective way to know whether your organization is secure or not is to conduct security health checks. In a way, technically, we call it penetration testing, or sometimes we call it vulnerability assessment, is to test out, how are your security controls withheld against cyber attacks, real form of cyber attacks. So this is exactly what LGMS is doing. We offer penetration testing services. And in order to maintain security, this is also becoming another challenge for not just us, but for all of everyone who is going online, because hackers are constantly looking for new ways to breach into organizations and looking for new ways to phish users, computer users, and I think one of the things that we would like to advocate is that cybersecurity awareness. This is no longer at enterprise level, but cybersecurity is very much a business problem today. It's no longer an IT problem. So I think what I'm hoping is that most of us will understand that we no longer live in a world we are safe from hackers. Regardless whether we are individual or we are organizations, we are all susceptible to attacks.
Now, big Malaysian companies such as AirAsia, iPay88, and Astro have suffered data breaches recently. Now, if these big companies with their budgets are having issues, what advice would you give to smaller size enterprises to protect their databases? Our SME does not have the same kind of funds, so what can they do with their limited resources to protect their databases?
Yeah, that's a good point, because cyber attacks today, hackers do not distinguish the targets anymore, because today, the attacks are being so autonomous. Hackers are using automatic tools, automatic scripts to launch their attacks. And it doesn't require a human being sit there and then type on the keyboard to attack some organizations today anymore. So it makes a lot of economic sense for hackers to deploy automatic scannings, automatic testing and hacking onto everyone's and every enterprises out there. So typically, when a larger organization suffer a cyber attack and compare with a smaller organization when they suffer a cyber attacks, the smaller organizations usually have a much greater impact because probably they have not done the prevention countermeasures before. Like for instance, they may not have a backup mechanism in place. Their data may not be completely backed up, and that's why for SMEs, usually they are at the losing side because they probably have not done much prevention before. So for SMEs, my advice is that, a lot of cybersecurity protections are actually cost-free. It doesn't cost you anything. Like, for instance, having a good cyber hygiene, like do not use pirated software. This is one of the key things. Always perform backup, in case of worst thing happen, you just restore from backup. And do not download pirated software. I have to repeat it twice for SMEs. As long as you can keep these in a good practice, and I think our exposure could be much minimized.
Now, I'm old enough to remember that when I started working, a lot of scammers were using emails as the default communication tool, right? But, fast forward 30 years, today, is it phone, is it SMS, is it WhatsApp? Or are we seeing more scams coming through the social media platform to lure the innocent victims?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. WhatsApps, Telegrams, social media. In fact, surprisingly, most advertisements that we see on social media nowadays are operated by scammers. Anything that seems to be too good to be true are most likely the ads are most likely operated by scammers. Emails are no longer that popular. Emails are being used as a attacking tools instead of a scam tools. Emails, typically the hackers would attach a malicious attachment onto the email and then expecting an innocent user to click it so that attachment can implant into the computer so that attackers can come in. So emails are mainly used for cyber attacks, but not for fraud and scams.
CF, thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure speaking to you, and we wish you every success on your plans moving forward. On the Breakfast Grille was Fong Choong Fook, Executive Chairman, LGMS Berhad. This is BFM 89.9.
The BFM Breakfast Grill is brought to you by U Mobile. 5G now with you.
You have been listening to a podcast from BFM 89.9, the business station. For more stories of the same kind, download the BFM app.